So, do I split my beans or do I leave them whole for making extract? So here's my take on that. I split my beans, and here's the reason why. These beans, I'm just going to disclaimer, both will work, splitting or leaving them whole. It just depends on your time frame and what you want to do. If you're going to leave them whole, it's going to take a lot longer for you to make your extract. I personally split them, and here's the reason why. These are fibrous. They're plant-based, so the outside pods here are very fibrous, and you're going to have to get your fluid through all those fibers into the center and then back out again. And that's why you got to shake your jars so you get that fluid movement around there. And the best and fastest way to do that is by splitting them. Because if you leave everything closed up, it's just going to take a lot longer. That's my opinion. But there's also some science behind it. Because I test a lot of things. And this is one of them. I made extract for 28 years now. And probably a little longer. But I did it just like everybody else did. I threw them in a jar, put them on a shelf, cold, dark shelf, and then I shook them every now and then. So it took forever to make. I started exploring a couple years after I started making vanilla extract, and my process is just being refined down to what I'm doing today. And probably nothing's changed in the last 8 years other than different alcohols and, well, actually no, the alcohol I use now is what I've been using for the last 8 years. But let's get back to, do I split them or don't I? A lot of people like to use the whole beans for decoration, or they'll cut the ends off after they've been in the extract and squeeze out the caviar. They're afraid once you scrape out the beans you can't use the caviar anymore, or the seeds. I really don't like the term caviar. And the only reason why I say that is because 95% of your flavor is coming from the pod itself. It doesn't actually come from the seeds. There's a membrane around the seeds and there's some fibers around it that does give off some aroma and flavor, but the seeds themselves, if you look at them through a microscope, they're hard, they're fibrous, they're pretty in your bottles and in ice cream and stuff like that, but they really don't give off that much flavor. And I have tested that. I have done it where I put just the seeds in a jar and then the pods in a jar, because what you read on the internet and stuff like that, it only gives you so much. I want to know why, and I want to do the testing behind it. So what I tell you is this, my opinion and what I've done for testing. So when I did the testing with the seeds, man, I wouldn't have called it an extract. I wouldn't even call it a flavor. It did turn the fluid a little brown and stuff, but not very much. So I tend to believe what I was reading, and there's a little bit of flavoring come on off the seeds. 95% of it is coming off of this actual vanilla bean pod. So I want to try to get as much fluid surface area as I can around this pod. So the more surface area we get it, the faster your extract's gonna happen. And for me personally, I think it tastes better because you are getting a really deep, rich flavor because you're breaking up these fibers when you scrape out the seeds. And you can see on this one here, it's really shiny on the outside and kind of dull on the inside. That dull means that shiny coating is not gonna, it's actually gonna allow it to penetrate better. And that's on the inside. The outside has a shiny coating, and I don't know if it's the process or if it's just the plant itself with the photosynthesis, yeah. And how the structure of it is, but fluid does get through it. We obviously know that because we're making extract with it. But this duller side is open fibers, so that fluid's soaking in there like a sponge, and will extract a lot faster. So this is the reason why I do it. Anyway, and my process of making vanilla, I'm doing a series of videos now, and my next video will be my complete process from this stage here all the way to when I bottle it and put it on the shelf. And this is how I do my splitting, because I don't want to waste a whole lot of time. I've got over 300 beans in here that I'm going to have to do this to, every one of them, and I don't really want to waste a whole lot of time doing it, because it's not that important. It doesn't matter if you leave some seeds behind or not. It's just not that important. My end result is incredible, and I can use the seeds if I want. I can use the pod if I want. I can use them all together. So what I do is I cut off the ends. I got my smaller camera here to hopefully capture this up close for you guys. So I cut the ends off, and I'll just throw these in the jar. I don't do nothing else with them. And then what I do is I use these flat razor knives. And you also, on your pods, you'll see a fold. They're flat. So this one's pretty good size. It's pretty thick and round here, but it tends to be flat right here. So I don't want to cut down the center. I used to do that. I used to cut down the center, but when I threw it in the alcohol, it folded right back up on itself, and I wasn't getting that fluid in between there. So I came up with this way. I kind of lay it flat like this, push down. So I've got my fold. The folds are this way. And what I try to do, let's see if I could do it, is I run the razor blade on each side. I know this is a pain in the butt, but it works. And I'm not going to be real critical about if I get that fold all the way or if I cut the bean wrong. It doesn't really matter. And that's it. I open it up. Because see, even there's a little bit of a fold there. It got a little high. But I open it up, and there's all your seeds. And what I'll do is, popsicle stickers work great. I'll just start scraping these seeds out. And when I'm doing that, it is actually opening up these fibers right here and cleaning the seeds out completely. So I'll just put these seeds right here. You can see the little fibers right there. It even ripped right here, which is fine. Let me just do this. See, I didn't quite cut that one all the way. Not a big deal. I'll just cut it like that, just so it'll open up. And then that's it. I'll do the same thing to this one. So now you can see it's opened up all those fibers, and now you've got more surface area for your fluid to get around. That's only just going to make your process faster. And like I said, to me, it makes a better extract because I think you're getting a deeper, richer flavor from it versus just leaving the beans in there straight. From this point on, I put everything in the jar. I put the ends in the jar. I'll scrape all the seeds into the jar. And then I'll put the pods in the jar. Put the cap on it. Put my fluid on it. Put the cap on it. I use the vacuum seal method. I put a vacuum on it, put it on the shelf, and I'll start making my extract. Some of you are saying, well, what if I want to use the seeds, or I want to make the caviar or the paste and all this other. You still can do that when you're done. For me, I separate everything at the end, but when I'm making my extract, everything goes into it. And that way I'm getting full flavor from that whole bean pod, and you still fall within the FDA standards. So what I'll do is, when I'm done, I'll pull it out, and I'll pull the beans out, or the pods out, put them off to the side, and I'll run the fluid through a strainer. These stainless steel coffee strainers work really well. You put everything through, and the only thing you got left in here is maybe a couple little fiber pieces from the pod and a bunch of seeds. So I make everything in these half-gallon jars because they're easy for me to spin, and I'm not shaking a bunch of little jars. I just shake one big jar, and then I process everything at the end. And I'll show that in the video in a couple months because I'm doing everything now. But yeah, so you can, once you pour it out and get it in here, then you can use your seeds for whatever. You can put them in a separate jar. What I do is, one of these half-gallon jars, I think does 4 or 5 of these 12-ounce bottles that I bottle it in, and I separate all that in between each of those jars, and then I'll also pull out some of the good beans and throw them, or the good, nice, pretty, I'll say pretty ones, from the main extract, put it in the jar, and then I'll fill it up with the fluid, with the finished extract. And then that's how I finish bottling. All the seeds from the pods go in there, and all the only a couple of the pods go inside, because I'm trying to give them more fluid than I am dead pods. So that's how I bottle. So, and you can use the seeds for whatever. What I do at the very end is all the extra vanilla pods that are done from extracting after I've bottled, I'll dehydrate them and then grind them up and make a vanilla powder with it, and from there I make vanilla sugar. I don't make anything else, just the vanilla sugar. And that's the way it goes. The little tips and ends, these are really good. I don't put them in the bottles. I put them in the dehydrator. They still have the little seeds in the ends, and when I go to dehydrate them, they do really well, and then I grind them. A lot of those seeds come out, and it makes a really pretty sugar. So it's good. I try to use my beans as much as I can for different products. But yeah, so there's where we are. I don't think there's anything else. I'm trying to make these series to help everybody understand that there's a lot of different ways of doing things. This is my preferred method, and this is why I'm doing them. Because they both work, leaving them whole or splitting them. Yeah. So if you have any questions, please feel free to comments down below, and I'll try to answer them on the next video. I know every time I make a video, there's always these questions, and I see the split one question all the time, so both ways do work. It just depends on what you want. This is just my opinion and how I do it. So yeah, the comments are great, because then I can go back and I need to make a video about that, and I'll do that. I'll try to do that. I am going to try to make a video on the different types of vanilla beans, Tahitian, Madagascar. I see some of these other new ones, the Mexican ones. Maybe in the future I might do a complete flavor profile on it, but I'm just really busy right now, and I can't do that, and I don't have the money to go out and buy a bunch of beans and start that test. Eventually I will. Maybe if we get some sponsors, we can do a test on it and be scientific. Everything's the same, and do the different beans and see where their flavor profiles are. I don't think there's that much difference. I have used a few different beans. I do get asked what type I like and what I use. I use whatever I can get my hands on. Because when I make my extract, I'm making it for baking. I'm not making it for testing or tasting or anything like that. So when it goes into the baking process, I don't think you're going to tell a difference between Tahitian or Madagascar or the Mexican. And there's a few others. I use the grade B. I have used high grade vanilla beans. I paid a lot of money for them. I'll never do it again, because it didn't turn out any better than what you use with the normal bean or extract grade bean. So I'll never spend that kind of money again. So yeah, if you're a lot of flavors out there, all this other stuff, but if you're going into baking or I make a coffee liqueur that I use my vanilla in. It does make a difference using your own vanilla in what you're making than using a store-bought vanilla. That's for sure. In the last 28 years, I've had to buy store-bought vanilla twice because I ran out of my own stuff, and I had some brewing, but I didn't want to pull from it. And yeah, that was a bad mistake. I'm kind of in that situation right now. I'm almost out. I got one bottle left to get me through the holidays. And yeah, I don't want to buy store-bought stuff. So there is a big difference when you're baking homemade versus store-bought. But as far as making your homemade vanilla extract, between all the different beans and the different alcohols, I mean, you can't screw it up. You saw that in my other video. But if you're using one type of alcohol, a clear grain alcohol, or a rum, vodka or rum, if you switch it depending on all the different beans, I don't think there's that much difference in flavor. And especially if baking, you're not going to tell a difference when you're baking with it, because you're going to have a good strong extract anyway. So anyway, there's my take on it. I hope this helps you out on making your decision, either going whole beans or split beans. They do look prettier when they're whole, but I'm not using pretty for my baking goods. They look, it doesn't matter in here. You can't hardly see the beans in here now, but there's 3 or 4 pods in there now with a bunch of seeds, and you can't see them. So it really doesn't make a bit of difference. Towards the end, you'll see them and everything, and everybody loves seeing that. It's part of the nostalgic of it. But seeing this is the same thing. It's just not as pretty. But yeah, you're going to get a faster extract. And I say faster, let me just clarify this a little bit. Faster. When you're using the whole pods, it's going to take you a year. It could even take you longer than that. Splitting them like this, anywhere between 3 to 4 months. You can get that. I'm going to show you how I test my vanilla bean pods to see if they're finished or not in my process video. That video will be a lot longer because it'll be kind of the whole process, and then what I do to test to see if my vanilla's done. Because that's a big question everybody's asking. When is my extract done and finished? Because there is a point where they are done. Because these are not the everlasting vanilla bean pods. You can't take fluid out and put it back in, or put fresh fluid in, and they'll keep producing vanilla extract. It's just not the case. It doesn't happen. All you're doing is diluting the fluid that's in your jar now, and that's really it. Because once they're done extracting, that's it. They're done. You might get just a hair aroma from it, but you're not going to extract any more from them. And I'll go over that process in my my processing video. Anyway, I hope that helps, and please feel free to comment below. Your comments are great, and it helps me address on other issues on the next video, and this was one of those issues. So thank you. I hope it helped, and if you like my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It does help us, and hit the notification button, and you'll get the notification as soon as I put them out. I'm hoping to get this one out today and do my processing video tomorrow and get it out by Wednesday, because there's going to be a little editing in that one. I don't need to bore you guys with all the stuff in between. So anyway, there you go, and I'll see you on the next video.